r/AskReddit by LaughWithMEmes. What can those who don't live in Hong Kong do to support the protesters fighting for freedom? Is there somewhere I could find a relatively unbiased L5 of what the situation is? From what I've seen on Reddit, I can see that it is f***ed over there, but I'd have no idea how to explain it to someone else. Hi, I'm from Hong Kong and I'll try to sum it up objectively as possible for you. If anything seems emotionally charged, please tell me. Thanks. The United Kingdom handed over HK to China in 1997 under the understanding of a one country two systems until the year 2047. HK would have a lot more autonomy than China under this one country two systems agreement. Many HK people believe China is not honoring this system and are slowly eroding freedoms and rights of HK to make it more like mainland China. Hong Kongers started to protest in June due to an extradition bill which would allow China to extradite anyone in HK which they deemed to have broken their laws. As China only answers to themselves, the bill, if passed, would mean that they would be free to legally extradite anyone from HK if they decide to do so. The bill was suspended by Carrie Lam, chief executive of Hong Kong. A lot of people in Hong Kong wanted the extradition bill to be fully withdrawn and not just suspended. As such, the protests continued. Police started to use more force, tear gas and rubber bullets as an answer to the protests. Many of the protesters deemed their use of force excessive, which in turn created more protests regarding police brutality. 5 demands by the protesters were given to the HK government, but the HK government have not yet formally acknowledged or responded to these demands or provided a counter-offer. This has angered many protesters, and they deem the HK gov of not performing their duty. There's been violence and lawlessness by both police and protesters, and I would recommend reading about any incidents that have happened during the protests from different sources before forming an opinion. I've glossed over or not mentioned many of the incidents during the last 10 weeks, but at its core, it's about the people of Hong Kong protesting about China slowly eroding its freedoms and autonomy, lack of government response and responsibility, and police brutality. I'd recommend BBC or EUTAS for a relatively neutral view for a big read up. Please take everything shown and report it with a grain of salt. I'd like to apologize in advance for anything really important I've completely forgotten or glossed over. A lot has happened over the past few weeks and it's hard to keep track of everything in one post. Please feel free to add anything. Cheers. Hong Konger here. First, I thank you all sincerely for caring for us. So the best things you can do is to spread the words to others in your nation. Showing the government, the Communist Party in China, how many people care will undoubtedly give them a lot of pressure. I also want to tell you guys that r/Hong Kong exists and it contains a lot of information you guys really need to know. Thank you. Edit. I really appreciate all your comments. Please continue asking me about Hong Kong. I'll gladly try to answer all. The students at the universities here keep protesting for you guys. But the Chinese gov keeps shutting them down. NZBTW. The students go out anyways, even though they risk their degrees. Hong Konger here. Keep visiting us. Don't let the government have any more excuses to say the protesters have ruined tourism in Hong Kong. It really is pretty safe here 99% of the time, and protesters know to protect the innocent. Edit. Just to clarify one thing as I keep seeing it in my responses. The Hong Kong International Airport has been temporarily closed this past Monday and Tuesday, but has resumed normal operation since then. Protests in the airport have been scaled way back as well. This is probably the most useful answer in the thread. Most replies are some variation of doing something that is thoughtful, but completely irrelevant. Thanks for mentioning my post. My view on the greatest help that foreigners can provide is to get their government sanctioning Hong Kong so that it will put HK's status as an international financial center at risk, hence threatening China's economy. It is important to understand that HK is a very important hub for Chinese companies to finance their businesses and for China to exchange their RMB into foreign currencies. Many Hong Kongers and I believe, while HK is still very useful to China's economy, it is the best to leverage HK's advantages to make China surrender and respond to our demands. Some Hong Kongers, many on the front line of protesting, even wants to put the Communist Party of China, CCP, to death. After all, CCP is a reason that China/HK does not have democracy. I'm a Hong Konger and your support means the world to us. These couple of days have been pretty rough for me, and I'm almost at my breaking point. Seeing fellow Redditors supporting our cause really made me smile. Thank you so much for your support. Edit. My first gold. Thank you, kind stranger. And thank you all so much for your kind words. Seriously, I'm bawling my eyes out. Us Hong Kongers won't give up, and we'll fight for freedom till the end. As a hooker, I'm interested in what the foreigners think is happening in Hong Kong right now. Since in the past few months, it's hard to find unbiased information, truth feels like it's in short supply. On one hand, you have pro-PRC newspaper like Global Times that supports the government, report the worst bit of the protesters, calling local triad heroes in white for beating up protesters, who were dressed in black, and how the protesters occupying HK airport costs the aviation industry several 10 millions. And then on the other hand, you have newspaper like BBC, or social media channels like Twitter that show how peaceful the protests are, at least initially, the police using excessive force, intentionally allowing protesters to be beaten up, and HK government ignoring the requests of protesters. Oh, regarding the title Fighting for Freedom. The extradition bill may be the spark that starts the fire, but what keeps the fire going is far more than that. It's not just about freedom anymore. The West routinely mocks Chinese newspapers as being government propaganda and sees HK as a little bastion of democracy in the area. No one believes the hit pieces that China puts out about this stuff. We also don't see the triads as anything but the villains in kung fu movies. No one in the West believes the government narrative. But they are also not going to do much to mobilize against China, any more than the West mobilized to help Ukraine when Russia annexed Crimea and rebels took over a third of the remaining country. Funnily enough, Reddit makes the situation seem more known than it actually is outside of internet context. I've had several discussions out here with people, perhaps 12 different people, all 12 didn't know this issue existed, and most didn't seem to really care. So far this Area 51 raid has far more presence than Hong Kong's protests, which is unfortunate. Let's storm the Hong Kong Chinese border, they can't stop all of us. Help other people in your own city to be aware of the situation in Hong Kong. It seems like no one in Australia care. I know more about it through Reddit than real people and the news combined. Australians don't care about a creeping police state in their own country. We are politically retarded in Oz. Australia's attitude of she'll be right is toxic as FCK at times. I'm all for not sweating the small stuff, but we forget that sometimes it's still important to sweat the big stuff. Failing education system? She'll be right, we are not a third world country, so what are you complaining about? Shit infrastructure that's intentionally designed to funnel money, or if the commuter's wallet, and into contractors' pocket? She'll be right, how else are we going to fund roads anyway? Blatant corruption in politics? She'll be right, both sides do it anyway, so why are you getting so worked up about any single example? Government/police overreach, and lack of privacy laws? She'll be right, you don't have anything to worry about if you're breaking any laws anyway. Well documented but explicitly pardoned theft of water during long-running drought? She'll be right. It's not technically illegal anymore because of government changing laws retroactively. Plus, how are you going to prove anything when the prosecutors have been directed not to prosecute? Too often we excuse absolute behavior just because it seems too hard, but people only too hard because nobody cares enough to do anything other than complain. The new younger generation, generally those who are under 22, are much more aware, active, and informed than my generation ever was, but the amount of people who are willing to sell out on their nation just because she'll be right anyway is fucking abysmal. Spread the news about it. Talk about it on other types of social media. Although it's a small step, bringing awareness to a problem is a step towards a solution. I see that several countries are taking the side of the protesters, but it still needs to be talked about more. I couldn't find any website where you could directly help them, sadly, so the best thing we can do is bring awareness to the situation. Okay, and then what? It's up to them. We, outsiders, can only really start doing anything once PRC makes a move. Any move we make prior to PRC actions legitimizes PRC claim of foreign influence. Watch, learn, and don't repeat their mistakes at home. It's easy to forget how hard freedom was fought for, and people so easily give up that freedom at a request 100% this. Authoritarian regimes creep in with promises of safety and prosperity. If someone starts talking about why you need to relinquish your individual rights for the greater, but start asking questions. If you give up freedom peacefully now, your children may end up having to take it back through bloodshed. Support us by staying informed and being objective about the situation. Most of us are peaceful. The violence defines a number of us, but not the majority. There are also a lot of unverified accusations and outright lies on social media, including Reddit. Don't trust. Verify. Don't demonize the police, but denounce police brutality and poor de-escalation tactics. Denounce violence from everyone, including the protesters. Denounce propaganda and interference of reporters from both sides. Denounce biased media framing from international news. Seek unedited live footage. I can't stress this enough. Live footage. Not written summaries with emotive language and sensationalized headlines. Please like and subscribe for more. This is Laugh with Memes. Goodbye.